it is a painful day. It is a pain that we feel for the family and ourselves as colleagues. As somebody who knew Comrade Chabane from the time I was a student at Teflop, when he was arrested and kept at Heinesberg before he was taken to Robben Island. It is somebody that we worked with closely in the African National Congress, but also even in government. And I want to say, as Minister of Transport, we know that Minister Chabane, as an MEC of Roads and Public Works in Limpopo, established the Roads Agency. In the same way that we established Sanral for National, he established the Roads Agency for Limpopo, which is called the Roads Agency of Limpopo. So it is important for us, but also incidentally, he was somebody who was working very closely with me. When he was Minister of DPME, when I had challenges in terms of establishing a department, a total new department, I always went to him, and I remember the lunchtime meetings that we used to have, trying to work together as people who came from provinces, both me and him coming from different provinces, coming to National, getting to understand the dynamics of National, sharing experiences on how to deal with the administration. I would say, in fact, I relied on him a lot of times. Many of the interviews that I did for the DG and the DDGs in the Department of Energy, we did with him, but also including my agencies, which were like NERSA and all others. And he was somebody who always believed in the success of government delivering to the people, but also not only for South Africa, for SADC and the continent. I know that at both instances, when I was Minister of Energy, he would come and tell me about the challenges of electricity supply in the continent, but also the opportunities that were available in terms of building relationships with other countries. I would want to say, last week, when we were running to the House to vote, he actually said to me, I thought I would outpace you because with my body size, I can run faster. And on Wednesday, when I got sick, I asked him to act for me in transport. When he passes away, he speaks about road safety. Because Saturday at the funeral, he was talking about road safety and how he encouraged people. And I would want to say that, in essence, he was an all-rounder, somebody who understood the public service, somebody who we were actually looking forward in terms of the public service processes. And I'm very sad because even on the floors in the administration, we share the same floor. We were calling each other neighbors. So.
But of course, talking about road safety, this tragic accident has once again brought the scourge of road fatalities on the spotlight. And I mean, that's your department, that's where you come in, Minister.
This crash, has put road safety at the helm. But also, I just want to indicate, incidentally, January this year, the Secretary General of Pop Group called me to say, can we be partners on road safety? And we have now included them in the Road Safety Council. So I want to say road safety is everybody's responsibility. Today we will be joining Lead SA and the other role players on the roadside to actually amplify that everybody has got a responsibility on road safety.
All right, thank you, Minister, for joining us. That was Minister of Transport, Dipuo Peters, just sharing her memories of the late Minister Collins Chabane. We will be speaking to more people who are here at the memorial services, more ministers, family members and other mourners who are here to remember the late Minister Collins Chabane and obviously bring tribute to him.
Well, thanks very much, Patricia. Well, joining me now is someone who worked with Minister Collins Chabane for many, many years as his spokesperson, Harold Maluka. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Phil.
It must be an emotional one for you as well, having worked with Minister Chabane for so many years as his spokesperson.
Yes, absolutely. The events of Sunday morning have been quite a tragic to all of us. It was quite heavy. It came at a time when we're still looking forward to having a long standing relationship with him. Minister Chabane himself was a very supportive minister. He was a very a supportive colleague that always made sure that all of us have an opportunity to be able to explore our skills and also to be able to learn from him the depth of knowledge that he possessed, the warmth, the humility, that even if you're going wrong on something, he would rather be able to show you the bigger picture of the implications of the decision you are making rather than making you to feel like you are absolutely wrong. And at every given point, it became such a huge learning lesson for me, having worked with him for those many years. I worked with him at the time when globally the world was looking at developing what we call performance management systems across the country to measure the performance of government and of the state. And it was quite an interesting period and quite a difficult one because we had to begin the function from scratch and ultimately see it as a department that is effective in monitoring the events of how government is delivering its services. And most importantly, we always emphasize that government, whatever system we develop, we need to look at it across the value chain to make sure that the end user, being the South African public, the people themselves, have a better experience when they're interacting with government. And today we should celebrate and celebrate the achievements that he made for us.
Now, often one gets to hear of, people's impressions of politicians as being one person in front of the public, but being a completely different person behind closed doors.
Yes, absolutely. Behind closed doors, he was a very jovial person. He often made jokes. He would even make a joke and laugh first before all of us could laugh at it. And he was always open. I mean, one of the momentous experience I've had with him is when he never took protocol quite too seriously unless we are in a public place. He often wanted to, he would even drive to my own house, take a car, drive himself and say, let's go and play golf. And he would also want to embrace everybody in the office, go and knock on every door, make sure that everybody's okay. Even when you have a family bereavement yourself, he will be the first person to phone you, he will be the first person to come and see you. He would ask what you are looking for. And at the same time, he was also quite supportive. He also wanted to make sure that you study. There are many lives that he touched, even through his own personal initiatives, where he went out there and go and raise funds for people to be able to get young people in school, particularly in his home village. And I'm sure many people are quite touched, and we have actually lost a giant. I personally feel that I have lost a brother, a mentor, and a friend who was open to any form of any challenge that you are facing in your life, that you could not say, I'm overburdening him because he's got so many responsibilities in government. He would be the first one to call you and say, I want to hear more. What is it that you are going through? So definitely it is a tragic loss, and we would also want to pay tribute to the two colleagues that he was traveling with, Sergeant Lentwane and Sekele. Because to us, when we were working with him, we were all friends. And often at the end of every weekend, we would tease each other about the winning team. He was a staunch Pirates fan, and the drivers were Kaizer Chiefs fans, and I was sitting in the middle of the fence. But at all times, it was very interesting and very funny to listen to the arguments. And I think also that we should also say to them that their families should also be comforted.
No doubt South Africa will be poorer without him. But the one thing you would miss about him, personally, that is?
Personally, what I would miss about him was his warmth and his humility. That at every given point, he would give you a call and just check how you are. He would even call you, I'm sitting somewhere, come here, we need to talk. And when you get there, you'll sit with him for hours and he won't say anything when you are expecting something significant. Until he says to you, no, it's time to go. No, it was nice spending time with you, I'll see you some other time. I will miss that because it's not quite often with people who have such heavy schedules like ministers that you would be able to sit down and be able to learn who they are personally and even understand who is who in his family. And the family has also been quite open, and I think we owe it to them to thank them for donating such a giant to some of us. It was a privilege to serve him, and I'm quite happy to have been given such an opportunity.
Harold Maruka, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Harold Maluka, of course, the former spokesperson of Minister Collins Chabane when he was minister responsible for monitoring and evaluation in the presidency. You are watching a live broadcast. We're coming to you from Pretoria, and that is where we are waiting for the start of the official memorial service in memory of Minister Collins Chabane, who passed away on Sunday and who will be buried this coming Saturday. We will, of course, also be bringing you that funeral service live from the province of Limpopo. For now, though, it's over to my colleague Patricia Fisachi.
Thank you so much, Vuyo. I am now joined by Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Michael Masuta. Good afternoon, Minister, and welcome here at the SABC PM News. Of course, it is a day that, one is not really feeling good that we are here, but we have to be here. And like some of the other speakers said, it's also a day of celebration because remember a great man, we remember a great intellectual.
Yes. Now, I still have a vivid memory of him sitting in meetings. I can name so many meetings that I sat with him recently. He was chairing the mandating committee that was an interministerial committee that was leading negotiations between government and the public service unions. And I recall his humility, his clarity of thought. He was always humble, never wanting to bash anybody or to make anybody feel small in a meeting. I mean, I always enjoyed meetings where he chaired or where he participated.
But he was also a man of very few words, but it seems like when he did decide to speak, he really left a mark in many people's hearts and taught them, fundamental lessons. Oh,
certainly. I mean, I remember sitting with him in cabinet meetings, in cabinet committee meetings, and whenever he spoke, he was always on point. He was always clear, and he always paid attention to detail, and I think that contribution will be sorely missed going forward.
And what have you drawn from him?
Well, look, I would like to believe that my own personal attributes, I strive to walk in the footsteps of people like him. Humility, always humble, never come across as somebody who's always wanting to project yourself as a know-it-all, always being prepared to be led as well. I think those are some of the attributes that I'll remember him for.
But it's also sad that all those beautiful attributes about him are only coming out now, in his death. Only now do South Africans really get to know who the minister truly was.
Well, those that observed him in action would have known these things about him because he was always consistently him. You wouldn't wake up one day and observe, be it on a television interview or some public gathering, a totally different person to what you have always known him. He was always consistent. So whoever got exposed to know him, to see him in action, they would have confirmed that the man has always been consistent in terms of character of person.
And surely, as you have served alongside him, you can really attest to the caliber of human being, soldier, cadre, and leader he was.
And a multi-talented person as well, to add all the other things you've just mentioned. I mean, being a musician, a politician, and then a leader in the organization with the kind of track record in political struggle that he has, it was just amazing.
Right there we have the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Michael Masuta, sharing his fond memories of the late Minister Collins Chabane here at the Tshwane Event Center, where the memorial service is about to start. Well, of course, as you know, we are broadcasting live from the Tshwane Event Centre. It is the official memorial service of the late Minister Collins Chabane. We have a lot of mourners who have since descended here at the Tshwane Event Centre. A lot of cabinet ministers, a lot of diplomats and ANC members who are here. But of course, we have to shift the camera. We see the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa is coming in. So if we can just shift the camera to him, we will come back and speak to the Minister of Health here. There you see the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa making his way to the service here at the Tshwane Event Centre. Of course, while he is walking in, we will continue speaking to the Minister of Health, Aaron Motsoaledi. Sir, it is a very difficult day, but it's a day that we remember a man that has left an indelible mark in the hearts of many South Africans.
Indeed, indeed. It is a very painful day. We are speechless most of the time, but you also know that we have to remember him. In the ANC, we usually say it's a time for mourning, but also to celebrate a life well lived. This definitely is a life well lived, because as you can read from the obituary, you realize that Collins has lived many, many years beyond his actual age in terms of his achievement.
And of course, a lot of people describing him as a rare breed, even that name that he adopted from the days of the struggle, the animal.
Animal, yes. Yes, Nelson Mandela once called him an old man trapped in a young man's body. You see, he's very tiny. Why? Because Collins is very analytical. You know, he doesn't talk a lot like some of us, but he's very, very analytical. Whenever there's a problem, he sits and listens very carefully and analyzes. And I suspect that's why Utata Nelson Mandela called him that. Yes, we used to fondly call him Animal. That was his nickname.
All right, thank you. That was the Minister of Health, Aaron Motsoaledi. Of course, we are here at the Tshwane Events Centre where the memorial service is underway, and there on the podium you can see the Minister of Environmental Affairs, Edna Molewa. Let's go to the podium and hear what she has to say.
Choir, can you help us with the national anthem? Thank you very much. You may be seated. Honorable Deputy President and Mayor, our bereaved family members, Excellencies, and all honorable guests who will actually recognize as we go on with the program, would like to first of all welcome all of you to this memorial service of our late Minister Collins Chabane. But first of all, we would like to introduce to yourselves the people who will be running the program today. We're just going to be calling up those who are speaking or to speak. And it is myself, Edna Molewa, and Minister Tulas Ngesi, who is standing here next to me. Would like to ask Reverend T.J. Mayayise to come and give us a prayer as we open this service. Reverend Mayayise, on stage, please.
I will request all of us to stand and let us bow our head as I pray. Lord, we pour out your spirit upon this nation during this time of mourning. May your love, peace, comfort so rise in our heart that it becomes our greatest testimony of your goodness during this time of remembering Minister Collins Chabane. Xikwembu xa matimba hi khongelela program hinkwayo kusuka ka lava nga ta va yi fambisa na hinkwavo lava nga ta vulavula ku fikela eka the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa leswaku moya wena lowu kwetsima a ku ve wona lowu wu rhangaka emahlweni leswaku hinkwavo lava nga ta vulavula, everything that they will talk, let it give comfort to Mrs. Chabane, children, siblings, relatives, colleagues, and all of us gathered here. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend Mayayise, for today's prayer and all other prayers that we've been supporting the family with. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, we are going to be calling upstage our Executive Mayor, Councillor Ramokgopa, to come and give us some opening remarks as we start with this service. Executive Mayor.
Thank you very much, Joint Program Directors, the Deputy President of the Republic, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa, the bereaved families present, ministers and deputy ministers present, the leadership of the African National Congress in all its manifestations, premiers, excellencies, ambassadors and high commissioners, dignitaries present, comrades and compatriots, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans. On the morning of Sunday, the 15th of March, our country and the world woke up to the sad news of the tragic and untimely passing of the late Minister of Public Service and Administration, Comrade Collins Chabane, and his two protectors, Sergeant Sikele Lintswane. On that fateful morning, that dependable servant of the people of South Africa and the African continent drew his last breath. That loyal servant of our people and one of the greatest humanists of our time rendered his very last service to humanity. The immutable dynamics of the inner laws of nature have thus predestined that we assemble here today to pay homage to this emblematic human being whose entire adult life was unreservedly and selflessly devoted to the service of humankind. It is with reference to this that newspaper editorials and various tributes described Comrade Collins Chabane as a tireless civil servant, a hands-on person in his work, a hard worker, a person of great character, fortitude, and morality, and an activist who served our people with dignity and integrity. All the freedom-loving people of our nation and the rest of the African continent have suffered an immeasurable loss with the passing of this exemplary personage of our struggle for total human emancipation. The gap that has been left by the departure of this mighty spirit will soon enough make itself felt. Program Director, on behalf of the citizens of Tshwane, in whose name we speak, we convey our heartfelt condolences and deepest sympathy to the family, friends, and close relatives. The endless outpouring of love and emotion from across a wide spectrum is a living testament of the extent to which your beloved one touched many of us through his devotion and the service to humankind. We share your immense grief and assure you that yours is not a personal loss, but a substantial deficit to all of us who encountered the fruits of his efforts in his personal and private capacities. As the scientific luminary and one of the towering figures of the 20th century observed, I quote, "A human being's value to the community depends primarily on how far his or her feelings, thoughts, and actions are directed towards promoting the good of his fellows," close quotes. Though a severe blow it remains, we know the deceased do not die. They continue to live in our hearts and heads. Their memory does not perish, and their doctrines will be effective even in greater circles. The list of attributes that populated the acclamations and eulogies in the wake of his passing left no doubt about his place in the modern history of social and political change in Africa. Program Director, there should be no doubt about the veracity and validity of those representations and depictions of Comrade Collins' life. This is a comrade who, as a teenager, already perfectly understood both the theoretical and practical implications of Frantz Fanon's call to duty. That, I quote, "Every generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission in life, fulfill it, or betray it," close quote. He developed political consciousness very early in the life that drove him to radiate explosive indignations at any form of injustice and human suffering. It is this awareness that saw him enter active political life at an uncharacteristically young age and go on to serve the movement and the freedom-loving people of South Africa so dependably in various pillars of our struggle for liberation. Henceforth, Comrade Collins' life became inextricably tied up to the ebbs and flows of the liberation struggle, spanning various phases until that glorious moment in April 1994. At the time of his passing, the comrade was at the helm of the Public Service and Administration, a department that constitutes the fulcrum of the conception and execution of government policies and programs. Under his leadership and that of his predecessor, the department was single-minded in its commitment to create a developmental civil service. This is a civil service whose work ethos, quality of skills, and moral rectitude are organic to the protection of developmentalism. Dear Master of Ceremonies, Comrade Chabane, in him we learned about the virtues of hard work and dedication, decisiveness and courage, critical and independent thought with collective discipline, unquenchable thirst for knowledge, and the awakening of critical consciousness and devotion to human rights. In him, we had a radiating and an excellent example, and indeed a living embodiment of individual initiative within collective discipline. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for bequeathing us an exemplary conduct of discipline, selflessness, and moral rectitude. We sincerely thank you for teaching us through practice that humility is the chief ingredient in the formation of personality traits which make up a great leader. In spite of your hard work and dedication to servicing the people of South Africa, you never once went on a crusade seeking personal glory or engaged in advocacy for self-promotion. It is therefore appropriate that we gather here today to pay homage to this illustrious servant of the people of South Africa, a great humanist, and above all, an intransigent combatant for human rights. I implore all of you assembled here today to please accompany us in mourning the passing of this emblematic personage in our struggle for a better life for all of humanity. I invite you to join us in celebrating a life worth every second of its existence, a life unreservedly devoted to the service of humanity. Let us all jointly and severally ruminate on the lessons bequeathed by this loyal servant of our people and the greatest humanist of our time. May his name, work, and efforts endure through the ages and become a trans-historical monument of humanism, social justice, egalitarian values to inspire and guide future generations. You are all welcome to the capital city of the democratic South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our executive mayor of the Tshwane city. Deputy President, the Speaker of Parliament, the Deputy Chief Justice, the Chair of the AU Commission, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, the First Ladies, the Premiers and MECs, the Members of Parliament, the Executive Mayor and Mayors who are here, the Councillors, Hosim Pepu and other kings here, and all the traditional leadership present, the leadership of the Alliance, which is led by the African National Congress, the DGs and all officials of the various departments, the representatives of the faith-based organizations and NGOs. Most importantly, the members of the Chabane family, ladies and gentlemen and comrades. After this welcome, we are going to request that the choir gives us an item, and in that we will be calling in a representative of COSATU to come and make the tribute, and the name we've been given is the president of COSATU, Comrade Stu Modlamini. Choir.
Wenyamazana siyaya boss. Wenyamazana siyaya boss. Wenyamazana siyaya boss. Hai 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 wenyamazana
Mandla! Can we have the representative from COSATU? We'd really like to have this memorial service running in a space of 2 hours, and therefore would like to save time. President of COSATU, the choir. No, he can come walking. Thank you.
Program Director, Comrade Thulas Nxesi, the Deputy President of the Republic, the Chair has already acknowledged and recognized everybody present here. I want to single out just the family and say on behalf of COSATU, we stand here this afternoon to pay our respect to one of our own. We're paying our respect to the men that we have done a lot of work with as the labor movement in South Africa. We are paying our last tribute to a comrade who's an activist, a cadre and a revolutionary. We have come here to say, to pay our tributes to a life that has been lived completely. A man who we believe never had to enjoy his youth because he had to engage in the liberation struggle at the very youngest age. We don't stand here to repeat the ululations about the life because already a lot has been said in the country, and yet a lot will still be said by the speakers coming. We are coming up here to acknowledge his contribution, mostly as a liberation fighter, but also because we were doing a lot of work as the organization with the work that he was performing as the minister in the Department of Public Service and Administration. He leaves us at a time when we are busy at the critical negotiations of the public service. It's a time that is always very crucial in our country, for we all know the impact of such processes. They require depth of leadership, and we knew and we have always appreciated that given to us by the South African government in the person of Comrade Collins Chabane was a man of depth, a man who had an ear to listen to the workers as we were engaging, navigating the difficult processes of negotiations. We are aware that at the time of his passing on, we are yet to meet to do exactly that, so that South Africa and workers in particular in the public service would be waiting earnestly for a reward for what they believe is their earnest work under very, very difficult conditions in South Africa. We are here as COSATU to say thank you to Comrade Collins. He managed to pull us together and ensure that we are able to engage under very difficult circumstances. We stand here, though, to say his work that he was so passionate with. For instance, we are aware that he has been quite involved in the idea of providing bursaries to those public servants who happen to be in the middle. They cannot afford to take their children to universities because their salaries do not allow them to get the NFSAS as it is suggested, because they are deemed to be paid higher than others. But they still cannot be able to afford to take their children to those higher institutions. He was sharing with us the idea of how do we meet that and mitigate that challenge of the public servants in our country who cannot afford to take their children to institutions of higher learning but do not qualify to access NFSAS as it is the case in our country. We think we shall be able to take further that idea, for we believe that it is very critical. He leaves us at a time when he was busy working with the negotiators to ensure that public servants, again, who cannot access bonds or covered by the banks in our country, but also cannot access the RDP houses, needed to have a scheme. Government is leading in that particular aspect, and he was indeed quite edgy that we conclude on that type of work. I can refer to many, many things on what we have been dealing with, but we rely and we know that the leadership of our government is capable to take us forward on that task. Lastly, as we stand here and mourn the passing on of our hero, of our leader, the passing on of a liberation fighter, the passing on of a man who he himself has led and understood the plight of the workers in this country. We understand then the challenges in our country are quite huge. They are quite enormous. We want to draw lessons from the type of a man that was. That emotions and anger, whilst it is a human factor, it does not necessarily become the only ingredient in finding solutions. That talking closer to one another and engaging and being critical to one another is also a semblance or a part of a solution in finding solutions even in the worst forms of the difficulties. And we rely on his character to learn from that. He was a humble person. He respected people. He respected us as the leadership. That we shall continue using his attributes in taking forward the difficult processes of our government that he was tasked with in ensuring that the people of our country and public servants in particular are able to take forward. They have signed the service charter because they understood that it is critical for them to serve. It is a difficult terrain, but we have committed ourselves to ensure that we can be agents of change in the time of our government, in ensuring that as we on a day-to-day basis engage with the peoples of our country for services they need, we also can effect change and the view that it is possible for public servants to deliver the services even under the very difficult circumstances. We want to say thank you to the family. We want to say thank you to the government. We want to say thank you to South Africa for having given to South Africa a man that has been capable of taking us forward. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to the President of COSATU. Deputy President and the members of the family, my apologies for leaving out the excellencies who are amongst us, the members of the diplomatic corps. We also recognize them. I have also been alerted to the presence of Umama Graça Machel and Mama Winnie Mandela. Colleagues, as we continue with our program, we are calling the Communist Party. We have been told that it is George Mashamba. As George Mashamba is coming, let me give you a quotation from the American civil rights leader, Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "If a man hasn't discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live." Indeed, we know Comrade Collins Chabane was prepared to make that ultimate sacrifice to defend his strongly held beliefs and in pursuit of the liberation of his people. We're talking today of a brave revolutionary and a soldier who courageously joined MK at the age of 17, a cadre of the ANC, serving all the structures at all levels, community-based activist and a grassroots representative. Hence, he was ready to work with the communists. Let's hear the tribute from the Communist Party, Comrade George Mashamba.
Hi, hi, tikweni leri, hi, tikweni leri, hi, tikweni leri, aidi nchumu osamanse. Vangwana vadya makondo, vangwana vadya makondo, vangwana vadya makondo, aidi nchumu osamanse. Leswi vakokwana, hi, vanga switi vanga, hi. Program Director, Deputy President, members of government and the various parliaments, says maybe Chabane, Matimba Sakani, Nandyangu Nkwa Waka Chabane, Nabangwanati. Ita isuka ka Communist Party, kuta itam komashkat. The song I sang here is one of the lyrics that motivated me and others from my province to stand up and join the struggle. And I think it is still relevant. When Comrade Collins left us untimely, we in the Communist Party were engaged with him in a dialogue to deal exactly with problems that have been highlighted in this lyric: the struggle against poverty, inequality, and unemployment. We have lost a social partner who was very much keen to deliberate us the issues that face us in South Africa. We have come here to pledge that we will not let him down, that his soul his spirit will live forever in all that we'll be doing. And we think that should be what all of us should undertake to do. Collins Chabane was a humble servant of the people, and I think we should take a lesson from that. A lesson that comes from our struggle. Because we said when we were struggling that the people are the forests, the bushes of which we fight. Comrade Chabane never left the people. And I think it's important for us to make sure that our government, organizations, once more become rooted in the people. Because without them, there will be no victory. We'd like to say that Comrade Collins, especially we from Limpopo, are grateful that we rendered service in that area. At an early age of 17, you stood up to challenge the regime. And in 1980, the year of the Freedom Charter, you left the country joining Mkhonto weSizwe. Fortunately, you came back and be with us even after freedom. This year is another year of the Charter. Now you have left us forever. But I think we should not let you go. Let your deeds be an inspiration to all of us so that going forward, your children and grandchildren must remember that we are one of us who fought for the new South Africa, who also participated in rebuilding the organs of the people, not only in Limpopo, but throughout South Africa. He was the first secretary in our province, and he mobilized the forces there, so much so that, well, for years, Limpopo has been one of the leading provinces in making sure that the ANC-led alliance is actually the leader of the people. We promise as we stand here that we'll continue on the footsteps of Comrade Chabane. We promise as we stand here that his deeds indeed will speak. With those few words, we would like to say,
I don't think Comrade George Mashamba, Comrade Chabane would be happy. This was an activist, a liberation fight. And one of his nicknames, Nyamazan, the warrior. Nyamazan, Yole. Nyamazan. 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 Go Sale Sate. Sale Sate. Sale Sate. Sale Sate. Nyamazan. 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 Yole. Nyamazan. Amanta. Deputy President, as long as you won't punish me, I'm talking about this power which is Amandla today, nothing else. This is the power which we see Mtlakasi, Kimatla Mosgastur. And we will request the choir to prepare for us to have the tribute by a friend, which is going to be the Governor of the Reserve Bank, Mr. Lisecha Khanyago. Choir.
ekubilela inkwakho
rula nikashikwembu rula nikashikwembu rula nikashikwembu
ekubilela inkwakho
rula nikashikwembu sitamila
makata ngwina tina yena titsakeleni na yena ikuba eti makata ngwina tina yena titsakeleni na yena tikome nimihiteka
wakanganyisa nala wakanganyisa
tikome nimihiteka
nala wakanganyisa ikongela Yehova
ikumba eti makata ngwina tina yena titsakeleni na yena ikuba eti makata ngwina tina yena titsakeleni na yena ayihunzuke ninkweru
iti sola sito iti sola sito iti sola sito
ahihunzuke ninkweru
iti sola sito ikongela Yehova
ikumba eti makata ngwina tina yena titsakeleni na yena ikuba eti makata ngwina tina yena titsakeleni na yena.
Over to you, Mr. Carver.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Program Directors. And Program Director, you did the job for me by going through all the protocols, and given the limited time I have, I shall say all protocols are observed. Suffice to say to the Chabane family, Mavis, and the kids and the rest of the family, we are here to comfort you. Your grief is our grief, but we do understand that much as we loved Collins, that your pain would be much more bigger than the pain that we feel as a society. It is a great honor and a privilege for me to have been asked by the family to speak on behalf of friends of this gentle giant that has departed. A great and selfless servant of our people, a fighter for liberation, a developmental activist who was driven by a passion to tackle the scourge of poverty and underdevelopment. A friend, a soldier, a leader, a political pragmatist, a diligent worker, our brother, a father to many of the children who benefit from the charitable work that he had done through the Shakani Foundation. It couldn't have been easy to decide on who should speak on behalf of Collins' friends. And I know that all of us have something to say about this remarkable man. During the course of this week, friends and colleagues had run significant cell phone bills as we tried to piece together and condense the life of this great giant of our nation into a few pages. That is the obituary. And I must say that I had never thought that it would be this difficult, for I had always believed that drafting by committee doesn't work, but it had to be done. To the friends and those that I have been asked to speak on their behalf, they are many. They vary from those who shared battle trenches with him, to those who had worked with him, and to those who had played golf with him, at the very least when he is trying to raise money for charity. And I tried to find words that would comfort you, and I borrowed the following words from Khalil Gibran, and I quote, "Dry your tears, my friends, raise your heads as the flowers raise their crowns to greet the dawn. Look at the bride of death standing like a column of light between his bed and the infinite. Hold your breath and listen with me to the beckoning rustle of her white wings." And I close that quote. We've walked with Collins a journey, and for me today, I think many of you would share lots of aspects of his life. And for me today, I thought that I would like to just talk about Collins as a servant of his people. When Minister Chabane, as we are here in a government function, was released from the island, he had the difficult task of establishing an office in Limpopo. That was the office of the ANC. And I had the singular honor of having to be his first accountant. And I must say that when I hear sometimes people talk of struggle accounting, I don't know what they are talking about, because accounting has always been accounting. And there are many of us who had worked with him. I have seen a couple of people in the audience who, when we worked with Minister Chabane, he understood the importance of accountability, the importance that the resources that we were having the privilege of administering on behalf of the people that we were representing in the offices that we were occupying, that those resources have to be used in the manner that they had been assigned, and in a manner that you could, without fail, account for. And Minister Chabane understood this better than most of us. We are here today reflecting on the life of a person who knew no boundaries in serving his people. Monitoring progress in the implementation of government programs is never easy. It is a task that mandarins and development practitioners grapple with all the time, and it is a task that technocrats reserve exclusively to themselves. In Minister Chabane, South Africa was distinguished. It was distinguished in one important respect, in that South Africa gave political ownership to the monitoring and evaluation of the performance of government. For those of us who spent most of our working lives in public service, we found in Minister Chabane a champion of development. And it came as no surprise to us when he was appointed the Minister of Public Service and Administration by the President. It was no surprise, for you can't achieve developmental outcomes without a competent and selfless public service. Death be no proud, for you have robbed of us in Minister Chabane, a giant, a man who understood the service for his people, a man who would stop at nothing to make sure that the citizens of our country are availed of the services that they exormally deserve. And to the family, I say that your grief is our grief. In the same manner that we had been visiting your house when Minister Chabane was alive, we will continue to do so. You can count on our support. You can count on us as part of your family, because as you know, in most instances, you do have people that you call your brothers, and those people most of the time come as a pure accident of birth. Those brothers that you choose, that you go out and you find, are the brothers who will forever be with you. Because others that are your brothers, because they were born with you, they are stuck with you, they can't discard you. And we are not about to discard you. Collins chose us, we chose him, and he remains in our hearts. And in conclusion, let me end with this little poem from Don Matera on his death. And he said, "It was our suffering and our tears that nourished and kept him alive. Let no shrines be raised to burden his memory, sages such as the need, no tombstones to speak their fame. Lay him down on a big mountain that he may look on the land he loved, the nation for which he died. Men feared the fire of his soul."
Thank you very much. Let us give Tatalisecha Kanyaho a warm round of applause, and thank you for the words of condolences. Baku mintiro yabo labula. Mintiro yabo labula intiso. The Chabane family, you have just heard what people have to say about your own. He was also one of ours as the African National Congress. And at this point in time, I'm going to be asking our representative from the African National Congress, who will be speaking on behalf of the NEC, to come upstage. And as he does so, I am taking this opportunity once again to inform you, ladies and gentlemen, that amongst us, there are members of the Executive Committee of the NEC of the African National Congress who are here to celebrate the life of Comrade Collins Chabane with all of you. We are mourning, but we are also celebrating a life well lived. Up on stage, Mama Ayanda Dlodlo, the Deputy Minister who also worked with Comrade Chabane in the department. ANC yasetyenzelwa. ANC yasetyenzelwa. Alala. Ayisetshenziswa kancane kangaka. Let's celebrate as well. Yasetyenze, ANC yasetyenzelwa. ANC yasetyenzelwa.
Program directors, you have made the load a little bit easier for me, because I will ride on your observation of protocol and just say all protocol observed, except just to say good afternoon to the Deputy Minister, Your Excellency. Good afternoon to Kensani and your children, Matimba and Zakani. We're gathered here today to pay tribute to our comrade Collins Chabane, a humble, uncomplicated man who never lost common touch. As the African National Congress, we not only lost a beloved comrade, brother, and friend, we have lost a man of great intellect to whom we all looked up to provide leadership on complex challenges we face as a movement and as a country. Principled and forthright, it was in his unwavering character that who found refuge amongst the greatest of storms. It is apt to use the words of Friedrich Engels as he declared at the graveside of Karl Marx on the 17th of March in 1883, that the gap that has been left by the departure of this mighty spirit will soon enough make itself felt. Fighting was his element, and he fought with a passion, tenacity, and a success such a few could rival. His name will endure through the ages, and also will his work. Close quotes. The past week has proven to be one of the most difficult for our movement. With a throbbing pain, we have tried to reconcile how such a figure so full of life is no more. The past week has compelled us to reflect. Not only do we reflect on the inspirational life led by Minister Collins Chabane, but on how far we have come as a movement. We reflect on how the selfless acts and sacrifices by the likes of our late comrade and the many heroes and heroines before us have brought dignity to the multitudes of our people. As we reflect, we appreciate that the attainment of our freedom as a nation could not have been fulfilled without these great acts of sacrifice. So in this pain, we find great relief that this battle has been well fought and that the strife was not in vain. Indeed, we describe the death of Comrade Chabane as an immeasurable loss to all of us. Today, we celebrate Comrade Chabane for the legacy he has created. The animal, as he was fondly known, but Daddy Cool, as he was known in the department, was a man of many talents. We remember him as a brave, forthright, principled, and truthful man with a great sense of humor and an intoxicating laughter. Driven by a forceful conviction to liberate our people, Comrade Chabane chose to forsake all of the innocence and privilege of youth to join the struggle to liberate our people. He was among thousands of young people who left a repressive apartheid South Africa to swell the ranks of our people's army, Umkhonto weSizwe, under the leadership of our President O.R. Tambo, the world's greatest leader. Those of us who were in the trenches with him know that a choice to dedicate and risk your entire life for the cause of freedom meant forsaking all trappings and semblance of normality, subjecting ourselves to a life bare of basic necessities and luxuries. In line with the provisions of the Freedom Charter, all we sought was to serve and to create a better future for all the people of South Africa, regardless of race or creed. An anchor to our movement, Comrade Chabane dedicated his life to serving our people. As a leader, he possessed a skill that very few can master, that in listening attentively, knowing when to intervene in a discussion or debate. His sober and well-thought-out words of wisdom were what we all looked forward to hearing, especially in difficult and complex discussions. His ability to hear out others as we spoke gave him the opportunity to further analyze and pronounce his views in a very solid and well-channeled manner. At no point would he let emotions cloud his thinking and always applied his mind fully on matters. A leader of great stature, he led from the front, respecting each and every person's contribution, ensuring nobody felt small in his presence because he was a man who loved people and respected the dignity of all. Comrade Chabane served the ANC with pride and dignity since he joined Umkhonto weSizwe in May 1980. During a 1984 infiltration operation back home in South Africa, he was arrested by the security police, charged with terrorism, and sentenced to 9 years imprisonment on Robben Island. During this time on Robben Island, he expanded his passion for music by learning how to play the guitar and harmonica. On many occasions, Comrade Chabane would join the local band on stage and express his passion. After being released on Robben Island in 1990, Comrade Chabane continued on his journey to serve and played an important role in rebuilding the ANC throughout South Africa. As a result, he was elected to the Limpopo Provincial Executive Committee in 1991 and the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. He had a great trust in the ANC and its leadership. Similarly, the ANC had tremendous trust in Comrade Chabane and deployed him into various strategic positions, both within the party and its government. He was one of the key people who influenced changes to the ANC's present constitution. Comrade Chabane believed that all members throughout the country had to be educated in the history of the movement and how this impacts on the position we adopt today. As the ANC, we can only learn from the life led by Comrade Chabane. Our responsibility is to ensure that all our members and supporters live the values espoused by our late comrade and serve with the same sense of diligence, dedication, and commitment. It is indeed a tragedy and a loss to our aspirations as a nation when, before its time, life is ended. As we cultivate and nurture our country's future leadership, it is the great wisdom and experience of Comrade Chabane that we will miss immensely. We bid farewell to a great man, an ally, my comrade in arms, a decent and humble human being. As we say our final farewell, we find comfort in the knowledge that you will once again be in the company of great leaders of our movement, such as Nelson Mandela, President O.R. Tambo, Governor Mbeki, Walter Sisulu, and many others. To his wife, Kensani, the children, the mother, and siblings, and all the staff in his portfolios. Thank you very much, comrades. Together we will take the first step and learn how to go on after his great loss. Know that you are loved and you will always be loved, and have a safe haven in the African National Congress. May his legacy of selfless service continue to shine. In all this, we will not fail you, Comrade Collins. Hamba kahle, sotsha lomkhonto. Hamba kahle, mkhonto. Hamba kahle, sotsha likaTuthuli, sotsha likaTambo. As commanders would say in the camps, ikhona riding, iphansi kombhede kacommand. Thank you.
Mandla. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Comrade Ayanda, for the tribute. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, let us continue with our program. As we do so, we will continue to recognize other dignitaries who may not have had an opportunity to recognize right from the beginning. We take this opportunity to recognize here the presence of our VCs, Vice Chancellors, all Chapter 9 institutions representatives who are here. And we would now like to move on with our program. And in moving on with our program, we'd like to welcome one of the members from the performing arts who had an opportunity to live with and to play with and to sing with Comrade Collins Chabane, and that is Ndate Don Laka, who will be coming upstage to perform for us and really to showcase what they've been able to do, what they've been doing with Comrade Collins Chabane as they're entertaining our nation and our continent indeed. Comrade Don Laka, we are recognizing the Performing Arts Council representatives who are here and those who have been coming to the house to pay their tributes. I now have an opportunity to hand over to you, Dr. Don Laka. Let us welcome Don Laka upstage with a warm round of applause. I did say that we are celebrating a life well lived, even as we have tears in our eyes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Baba Donlaga. You really brought the House to a celebratory mood, which we have to be in. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it has already been said that, and as you see on the life of one of our own, Comrade Collins, he was a member of parliament and one of the first set of members of parliament in South Africa. So we would like to then welcome on stage and on this podium the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Ndate Lichisa Senudi, just to share with us the parliamentary life with us. Thank you very much. Comrade Deputy Speaker.
Comrade Director, thank you for giving us this brief opportunity on behalf of Parliament to convey our deepest condolences to the family of Comrade Collins Chabane, the ANC and the Alliance in general, his friends included. Similarly to the families of Protectors Sikele and Linswane, we hope their loved ones will be consoled by the tremendous amount of messages of comfort intended to soften and lighten the unbelievable hurt they must be feeling as we speak. All political parties in Parliament expressed shock and disbelief at his certainly untimely death and conveyed their condolences during a motion debated in his memory this past Tuesday in the House in Cape Town. The Speaker will also do so on our collective behalf, both in writing and on Saturday in person at the funeral. This opportunity created by Comrade Collins passing away offers us an opportunity to reflect back partly where we come from. And I would like to choose the words of Madiba in May 8, 1996. And he said the following: "The brief seconds when the majority of honorable members quietly assented to the new basic law of the land have captured, in a fleeting moment, the centuries of history that South African people have endured in search of a better future. As one, you, the representative of the overwhelming majority of South Africans, have given voice to the yearnings of millions. And so it has come to pass that today South Africa undergoes a rebirth, cleansed of a horrible past, matured from a tentative beginning, and reaching out to the future with confidence." Amongst the public representatives Madiba spoke about, the pioneer MPs of the new dispensation was Comrade Collins Chabane himself. In a publication commemorating that period, Cyril Matlala, a journalist from KZN, writing pen portraits of the people they described as key players, included Comrade Collins amongst those key players. And this is how he described him. He says, I quote, "Regarded by insiders as a rising star in the African National Congress, Collins Chabane was a relatively low-profile member of a negotiating team which overflowed with talent." This observation by insiders proved prescient when, through his dedication and commitment, loyalty and discipline, saw him perform so well throughout that the president in 2009, when he became president, invited him to join him in that department. This significant public position in our country created an opportunity for Comrade Collins to do work many have already spoken about so far. But I cite these constitution-making reflections because he was not just one of us as membership of Parliament. He was in the Management Committee of the Constitutional Assembly. And I would imagine it is because of his skillful ability to listen, to communicate and break through complex issues, that the teams that were recruiting people inside our organizations to serve in the key structure that led those negotiations to fashion out what we are now very proud to call a constitution that is admired worldwide, which we fight daily to ensure its concrete meaning is realized by the majority of people on the ground, amongst whom Collins was always to be found. In Parliament, then, at the beginning, he served in the Joint Standing Committee on Defense, on the then Mineral and Energy Portfolio Committee, and on the ad hoc Committee on Intelligence. He was generally a very exemplary cadre of the movement, an exemplary public representative, and in the diversity of Parliament, including in the diversity of his caucus itself, he proved one of the most valuable part of those teams. Parliament is the poorer for the loss that we have suffered. He was always alert. He was a creature with a gift for a focus on details and on procedure. So he was amongst those front benchers who never hesitated to raise points of order, including mischievous ones that were meant to be held across the floor at opposition members. He could never hide his mischief. He doesn't sit far from the podium, and so we can see in his eyes when what he is going to raise is already written in his eyes, he's already smiling, and we know this one is not a real point of order. The man is up to some mischief. So for presiding officers, he was both a delight and a headache in the House. I cannot resist making an observation of the timing of his death. He dies on the 15th of March, a day after we reburied Moses Kotane. One of his heroes, the hero of our revolution, but also on the same day, 132 years ago, in 1883, Karl Marx died. Not one to be superstitious. It is absolutely significant that we now reflect about his life, its value to the revolution, as we reflect about the value and contributions of those that died during that day and those we reburied. And on Sunday, we will rebury another of our heroes. It is a loss about which our country proud for its achievement, cannot but think hard about the lessons we must learn from his life. He was a simple man, absolutely did not allow his status in the organization, in parliament, in cabinet to go to his head. The president spotted the most appropriate person to head department and found the Department of Performance Monitoring and Evaluation. His demeanor was such that the difficult task of communicating with ministers, deputy ministers, and DG are done with someone whose demeanor is the most appropriate. Hardly ever ruffled, cool, a deep listener, but a powerful thinker, but also, when feeling very strong on matters, very sharp and fearless in communicating his ideas. So in this decade of the cadre, which the African National Congress talks about, these fragments, including those that his friends talk about, and the music that kept his sanity, are the lessons we must take away and hope that from both the music and the work he did to build the kind of public service, the kind of cabinet ways of working, parliamentary practice and conduct that are worth emulating, so that those who come afterwards, such as we plan to do in Parliament, they must feature amongst the top achievers, the builders and architects of the new dispensation. He dies as we approach the 21st anniversary of our freedom, and as we intend practically to radically change the conditions of our people for the better. His contributions will no doubt be amongst those that for a long time, as we recover, we will not forget. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Shatali Chesa, for sharing with us Comrade Chabane's life in Parliament and parliamentary work. I really am going to drive this car in high speed now without losing what we came here for. We are now going to be calling on stage Mwanawaha Ntate Chabane, Ki Matimba Chabane, to come and share with us from a home point of view, a family point of view. Akombela kuri mita Alan. Nge iba chinela something yana la. Kaye kona
Just make sure it stays on, no? Just make sure it stays on. Greetings, Deputy President, Deputy Ministers, and in following with protocol, I will say protocol observed, all protocol observed. A great giant to stroll the globe like a colossal has fallen. A mind whose thoughts have opened the doors to our liberty has ceased to function. A heart whose dreams give hope to the despised has forever lost its beat. The gentle voice whose measured words of reason shook the thrones of tyrants has been silenced. Those are borrowed words from the late great Honorable former President Nelson Mandela at the funeral of the late great Oliver Tambo. I've found that they truly encompass the sentiment of having lost a great. And I say that without being sensational, without exaggerating, but with complete honesty and humility. To some of you here, my old man was a colleague. To some, he was a friend. To some, he was, I suppose I could say, trash-talking golf player. To some, he was, or to not some, but he was a husband. He was also a son, and he was also a father. To my sister and I, he was everything. And by everything, I mean he was the colleague that would aspire to be like, based on how much his colleagues commended his work ethic. He was the friend we dream of having, based on how much his friends commended him on his loyalty. He was the husband any wife would want, based on how much my mother dearly loved him. He was the son any father would be proud of. And he was a father. He was a father that both my sister and I will never forget, and I'm eternally grateful to have had him. One of the first memories that I have of my father was, I think I was about 6, 7. And he promised me that we're going to go to Johannesburg. So we grew up in Limpopo. I grew up in Limpopo. So Johannesburg was a big deal for me, going to Johannesburg. That's where Dynamite Deep Blue Gloof was, Yizo Yizo, all these things. That's how I thought of Johannesburg. And fearing that maybe his mind might change, I said to him, no, I'm going to be with him the entire day. So he went to meetings, I was with him, and eventually towards the late afternoon, we, as a family, all left, and we headed towards the Carousels. The Carousel is a casino that's just, well, it's before you even get to Pretoria. So we went inside there, my sister and I played. It's sorts of games, your card games, I was amazed by the different funny lights. It was a dream for me. This was the best Joburg. It was better than this Dynamite Deep Blue Gloof, this Yizo thing that I'd been seeing on TV. So after that experience, I went home. On the Monday, I went to school bragging to everyone about how, no, look, I had the time of my life in Johannesburg. It's a city like no other, and I'd recommend anyone to go there. So that caused an argument between me and one of my classmates who was quick to tell me that, no, I've never been there. We got into a bit of an argument, to which I started calling the teacher a liar because she too was saying I had not been to Johannesburg. Eventually I went home, asked my dad if perhaps I could change schools because they're stupid there and they don't know Johannesburg. Much to my surprise, it was myself who didn't know Johannesburg. I say that to make a point of what it is that my father taught us, and it was to be appreciative. Be appreciative of all small things, of all big things. Be appreciative. Appreciation is, for me, a gift that he's bestowed upon us, that we take nothing for granted. And even after finding out that I'd actually not even left Limpopo, technically speaking, I was still in Limpopo, I was still very much happy for that experience that I had. I also recall there was a time when my sister and I and him were playing with these toy cars which you wind back and then it rolls forward. And he was very much fascinated with this car. So much so that my sister said to him, "Papa, I'm toy now." So, which translates to, have you never seen a toy car before? That brought tears to my dad's eyes. One, not because he's never seen a toy car before, but that's an experience which, for the longest time, I knew back then, in any case, so still young, I knew back then that that was an experience that for him, for a great deal of his life, he never thought he'd get to experience. And him playing with that toy car with him and his son and his daughter meant that much to him. Also more recently, I remember I was meeting with some people, and anyone that knows me and knows my sister know that we don't do anything without, consulting our father. So as I was stepping outside to answer his call, I could hear in the background him saying to me, "Geez, is he going to ask his dad if he can drink water as well?" So I took no offense to that because I knew why I consulted my dad on almost everything, and that I did or that I thought. And it was because I knew that that was my biggest decision, to say he will always have my family and myself's best interest at heart. So much so that there was, I remember when you first got appointed to the Honorable President's cabinet, I think it was around 2009, 2010, there was an article that came out about the minister's misuse of a credit card. So what my old man did is he took his credit card and then he went and brought us groceries, which granted when this scandal, so to speak, came out, he already refunded this credit card. But the point that I was making there is, even when he was stepping outside of what it is that he was supposed to be doing, he was merely trying to get my sister and I, some Rice Krispies and juice, basically. So my role here as representing the family is quite simple. We're here to give thanks and give humble appreciation for the overwhelming support that we received from leaders of industry, from leaders in government, from his friends, from even people that don't know him. We, throughout this week, haven't had the chance to obviously look at anything that's been said outside of within our home corridors, but the feedback that we've gotten has been very positive, and for that, as a Chabane family, we're very grateful for having honored our father in this way. To my cousins, or in my culture, it's my brothers and sisters. Papa ba se ba fambile la msabeni, mara ngathuki va pfumela ku va suka ka timbili ta hina. Ngathuki va pfumela ku va suka ka timbili ta hina. To my aunts and uncles, boti na vona va fambile, and you've lost a brother, you've lost a sister, but you've gained 2 children. To my wonderful sister, Tsagani, all I can say is that you must sing. You must sing, and you must sing, and you must sing. My dad was very passionate about my sister's singing career, or her dream of singing, her passion for singing. And all he would have wanted her to do is to continue with her dream and continue to do what makes her happy. Because what makes her happy is what made him happy. The greatest man that I know is in fact not a man, is a woman. And that's my mother. My old man, whenever he got an opportunity to talk about the family and us, the one thing that he'd always dwell on was how my mother allowed him to do the work that he does. in that his schedule was demanding. Unfortunately, at times he's never home, but he always made the point to say whenever he had to leave for work, he knew that his family was fine because his wife had brought up his children thus far and should continue to do so. The children which he was very proud of. So mama nakumzela kuri mishtaku akungecincinchumu. Akungecincinchumu. Nothing is going to change. You have been, you don't need to become a father and a mother. Your role as a mother has been more than enough, and it will always continue to be more than enough. When thinking about what to say today, I was told that I should speak from the heart and speak from the heart, speak from the heart. Yeah, which I suppose makes sense, but the problem that I was having is that if I was to speak from the heart, I felt I'd deliver half a speech, which would be broken down into tears. I say half a speech because I feel as though half my heart is now left. I say broken down into tears because my heart has been shattered. And the tears because my heart has not stopped weeping since Sunday. So I then opened a diary. I have a diary where in the top of every diary there's quotations. There's a quotation for the day. And so what I decided to do, I was going to go to the 15th of April. The quotation on the 15th of April, which is my father's birthday. And it read, "All happiness you ever find lies in you." And I thought, well, that's useless. I was looking for something about all happiness from above will remain forever or something to that effect, But I really thought about it, and all happiness you ever find lies in you. And what that means is that my father has never left us. He's with us. He's in us, and he'll continue to do so for so long as we love him, for so long as he loves us, and for so long as we let him. Fama kahle Maluleke, ngwana Etiane, wa Shakane, wa Chabane, wa Minga, wa Dlamani, wa Mashakadzi, wa Malenga, wa Gunyula. Nkomo.
kombela ku ri mi ba mihulukwane leya yi twa kahle vanhu va Xikwembu a ni yi twa ha Khensa Matimba Natsakani. Thank you very much, the two children of our late comrade Collins Chabane, were supported by Uncle. The message from the family very deep and strong indeed. Let's welcome that message now by listening to, again, Mr. Don Laga. Ki bone lebini le le ena ha mnate on set samge as we celebrate the life of Comrade Collins Chabane. As Don Laga will be performing, let us also prepare to come up stage to give a tribute on behalf of the diplomatic corps would be Dean, His Excellency B.L. Mpoko. Please come up stage so that as soon as Don finishes, we can then listen to your message. Thank you very much. Over to you. Let's feel free to sing with him, to do whatever he guides us to do.
Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Your Excellency, the President of the African Union Commission, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members of the Parliament, Premiers, my brother, the Executive Mayor of Tshwane, my colleagues, ambassadors, high commissioners, and members of the diplomatic community. We are gathered here today to pay tribute to a great man, a man who devoted his youthful years to the liberation of this country, and a man who dedicated himself, his adult life, to serving the people and the Republic of South Africa. We, as a diplomatic corps, in our interaction with him, we discovered an intelligent man, a committed politician, a charming man, and more importantly, a reassuring man. In other words, Minister Chabane, when you ask him questions, he gave you real answers. He didn't go through what we call in diplomatic corps giving sugar-coated answers. He gave you real answers, and that will be missed. As we listen to different speakers, and with all the tributes that came from the country and around the world, it's obvious that Minister Chabane affected a lot of people and was known worldwide. Therefore, it's a big loss to all of us. To look at his life, as we look back at his life, from his youthful years in the liberation movement, from his love for music and art, from his dedication to his work as a cabinet minister, as a member of the parliament, and so forth. The man we're saying farewell today more than deserves to be called the great baobab tree, in spite of his relatively young age. We, in our interaction with him, we will remember many things because he guided us, our work, as a foreigners and as members of the diplomatic corps, especially when he was the minister in the presidency. He guided us, and we will always remember and be grateful to that guidance that he left us with. May I, on behalf of the international community and in behalf of the diplomatic corps accredited to the Republic of South Africa, express my real heartfelt condolences to Ma Chabane, the Chabane family, especially the wonderful children I'm just discovering here now, to the people and to the Republic of South Africa. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Let's welcome the words of comfort by the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps in South Africa. We will now watch the life of Comrade Chabane, Collins Chabane, on video. I'm told that it is ready. If we can get it on, please, video.
Chabane was born on the 15th of April, 1960, in the village of Shikundu, Malamlele, in Limpopo province, then known as the Northern Transvaal. A people's person, a gentle giant, and a grounded leader who worked with a sense of quiet determination. It was the noble cause of striving for a better future for all the people of South Africa that served as a backdrop to the life of Minister Collins Chabane. From an early age, Collins Chabane dedicated his life to fighting for the ideals of equality, justice and freedom, which saw him join the African National Congress ANC underground activities at the age of 17. As a student at Shingwedzi High School, Chabane actively participated in the Azanian People's Student Organization, Azazo. He registered for a BSc at Turfloop University, but a year later, in May 1980, went into exile, where he joined Umkhonto Wesizwe, MK. Chabane went to Angola for military training in 1980 and began work underground in 1981. During a 1984 infiltration operation back home in South Africa, Chabane was arrested by the security police and sentenced to 9 years imprisonment on Robben Island on charges of terrorism. During his time in prison, he obtained a diploma in electrical engineering from Technikon South Africa and studied aviation. On Robben Island, Chabane also developed a keen passion for music, learning music theory and learning how to play the harmonica. This exposure would later see him become an accomplished musician, establishing recording marimba band The Movement. On his release from Robben Island in 1990, Chabane also continued on his journey to serve. He assumed the role of the provincial secretary of the ANC in the Northern Transvaal until 1998, and in this role was instrumental in the re-establishment of the ANC structures in the province. Chabane was elected to Parliament in 1994, where he served on the Constitutional Affairs, Defence and Intelligence Committees. In 1997, he was appointed MEC for Limpopo in Premier Ngwaku Ramatlhodi's cabinet. In 1998, he was appointed MEC for Public Works and leader of government business in the legislature. At Public Works, Chabane established the province's road agency, which was the first institution of its kind in South Africa. In 2005, Chabane was appointed as MEC for Economic Development, Environment and Tourism. During his tenure in the department, he embarked on an international awareness program on economic opportunities in trade and investment in the tourism, mining, agribusiness sector, with special emphasis on doing business with SABC countries and Africa. Chabane was re-elected to the National Executive Committee, NEC of the ANC, where he at the time of his death served in the National Working Committee as chairperson of Constitutional Affairs Subcommittee, convener of NEC Deployee to Gauteng, convener of Transitional Task Team, member of National Deployment Committee, member of Economic Transformation Subcommittee, member of Social Transformation Subcommittee, member of International Relations Subcommittee, and member of the National Disciplinary Subcommittee. In 2009, Collins Chabane was sworn in as minister in the presidency, responsible for performance monitoring and evaluation, making the monitoring and evaluation function a crucial part of government's work. At the helm of the Public Service and Administration portfolio, where he met his untimely passing, it was his deep connection and understanding of the needs of the people that Minister Chabane set out to bring public services to the heart of the people through reinventing the way public servants work, by putting people first through the Batubili program of government. Collins Chabane is a former Chancellor of Mbulaheni Ramano Training College in the Vembe district. He holds a diploma in leadership and management from the Turfloop Graduate School of Leadership under the University of Limpopo and a diploma in management from ESOMI in Arusha, Tanzania. On Sunday, 15th of March 2015, the world received news from the fatal car accident that took the life of Collins Chabane along with his two VIP protectors. Today, we bid farewell to one of the most humble souls, a man of many talents, a devoted and disciplined leader who served as one of the dedicated fighters for the country's transformation towards a democratic dispensation. May the fruits of his labor be enjoyed for generations to come. Minister Chabane was a member of the Evangelical Presbyterian Church, Swiss Mission in South Africa from his childhood. He was a member of Shikundu branch, but active while based in Pretoria. His contributions include, among others, sharing knowledge on administration, fundraising, management of the church. He booked the Men's Guild in 2006, of which, despite his busy schedule, was a regular attendant of its conferences and other events. He was a benefactor in many ways, including speaking engagement at all levels from branch synod. His support spanned across all structures, including the Youth and Women's Guild. Minister Chabane is survived by his wife, Kensani, and 2 children, Matimba and Zakani, as well as his mother, Warubeni Elizabeth, and 10 siblings, Richard, Patrick, Cecilia, Donald, Dinzwalo, Mihloti, Ella, Kensani, Percy, and Selby. Rest in peace, Om Collins Chabane. From Bakahle, Mwana Etiane, Washakani, Wachabane, Waminga, Wadlamani, Wamashakazi, Wamalenga, Wagunyule, Wabetsa Ramatzalatzala, Uyimandleleni, Atsembankano.
Wow, what a life. I think we can do better than that. What a life. Life well lived. What a life. I want to hear that again, please. Thank you very much. That was Chabane's life. Many of you had an opportunity to share a minute or so, months and years with him, but it is very obvious that we couldn't find space and time for all of us to stand on this podium and speak about his life. I think we shall continue to appreciate every minute that we shared with him. And to the family, banu bakakaina ayinike munu wabanu akhensa ngofu. On that note, we would like to ask the choir to give us a very warm, is it the same choir that I was listening to yesterday? Let it be music like that of yesterday, that hymn. Like yesterday, if it is the same choir. As we welcome upstage the Premier of Gauteng to introduce to us our main speaker of the day, who he will deliver on stage as well. Premier, I would like to ask you to come upstage as we're listening to music. The choir.
Oh Judah, outing hauna ya twana liwena kabuhulu. Hallelujah, Dad. Only hlumela landlu yaktafita. Jehovah Jireh, my provider. Hey, Baba Totle, 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 Ietweki, Kiwe, Modi Mori Boka Wena, Amori, Mori Mo, Boka, Baba Totle, Totle, Tabari Tekiwe, Mawata and Tekiwena, hey, on a lady Amisora Hule Buhamudi, oh, Amori, Mamori Mo, Ribokawe, Hena.
Thank you very much, program directors, the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa, the Chair of the AU Commission, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the Chabane family, Sis Mavis, Matimba, Tsakani, the brothers and the sisters, ministers and deputy ministers, ambassadors and high commissioners, the Premier of Limpopo Province, Premier Matabate, the MECs from different provinces, Kosikuru, Ramaburana, the Executive Mayor of the City of Tshwane, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, the veterans of our struggle who are with us here, including Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Mrs. Graça Marcel, fellow mourners. The program directors have asked me to say a few things on behalf of the Gauteng government, but we have run out of time. All I can say to the Chabane family is that please accept our heartfelt condolences to the passing on of our comrade, your wife, your husband, your father, your brother. The musician, the artist may have stopped singing, but his music reverberates throughout the valleys and mountains of the great African civilizations, Mapungubwe, the great Zimbabwe, and Munamutapa. Comrade Collins' heart may have stopped beating, but we can deeply feel his passion in the movement and in government. So we say to him, farewell, Comrade Animal. The Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, cut his political teeth at the same university where Comrade Collins imbibed his politics, the University of Limpopo, which used to be called TEFLOP. He went on to become one of the architects of the trade union movement, particularly COSATU, and the National Union of Mine Workers. Deputy President Ramaphosa is one of the central figures in South Africa's transition to democracy. And he's an accomplished negotiator as we know him. Program directors, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow mourners, Please allow me to present to you the former General Secretary of the National Union of Mine Workers, the former Secretary General of the ANC, the current Deputy President of the ANC, and the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa.
Thank you. Let us be seated. Program directors, Sisi Mavis, Matimba, Natsakani, members of President Jacob Zuma's cabinet, the chairperson of the AU Commission, the Deputy Chief Justice, the Governor of our Central Bank, the leaders of Chapter 9 institutions who are here, the leadership of the Tripartite Alliance, COSATU, SACP, SANCO, and indeed the leadership of the African National Congress. Mamungema, Mamtobeka, Madiba, Mamukrasa, Machel, Mamuwini, Botobere, Boramabulana, Premier of Limpopo, Premier of Gauteng, MSCs who are here, and the Executive Mayor of Tshwane. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, comrades and friends, distinguished guests, and fellow citizens. Sisi Mavis, ba President Jacob Zuma, ba te himi rungula, aba swikoti ku ri va va kona xikarhi ka hina nyamutlha, va ta va kona hi Mugqibelo, kambe va te hi mi rungula n'wina na va ka Chabane. Compatriots, we are gathered here to pay tribute and to bid a word of farewell to our departed compatriot, Minister Collins Chabane. Today we remember Collins with fondness and great appreciation. Collins was a father, he was a husband, he was a son, he was a relative in the Chabane family. We remember a freedom fighter, a musician, a leader, and a servant of the people. Today, we remember a person who embodied in many ways than one the values on which we seek to build our nation. With the tragic passing of Comrade Collins Chabane, we have seen an emotional outpouring of grief from every corner of our country, and indeed from beyond the borders of South Africa. Many in public life have been remembered with respect and admiration, but it is rare to find such a universal sense of personal loss for the untimely departure of Collins Chabane. We have seen our elderly and young men and women paying tribute to a gentle hero who was never removed from the daily struggles of the impoverished masses of our people. Though gone a bit too soon, his spirit and memory will continue to reside amongst our people in the villages, the townships, and indeed across the land. His spirit and his work will compel us, as it must, not to rest until we have improved the lives of our people. Our loss is a colossal loss. When we sing Lala Ngoxolo Chabane Kade Uzabalaza, we must ask, who will pick up your spear, Comrade Collins, in our ongoing struggle to create a just and more humane society? To calm our deep-felt agony, we must find among our youth, our artists, who will take Minister Chabane's harmonica and bira to remind us of both the beauty and fragility of life. We must compose a national song to celebrate Collins Chabane's passion for humanity and zest for life. A person as sensitive, a person as caring, and as principled as Collins Chabane had no choice but to take up the struggle against the inequities of the apartheid system. As democracy dawned, he was compelled by his convictions to shoulder the responsibility of bringing a new nation free from exploitation, want, and hunger. In his village in Malamulele, at Shingwezi High School, in the Presbyterian Church, in the African National Congress, and later in government, he lived the universal values of equality, fraternity, and liberty. Throughout his life, Collins Chabane remained humble, unassuming, and committed to the struggle of our people for a democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa. We know him to have been a quiet strategist in an occupation often given to populism and defining or deafening rhetoric. Those of you who had the privilege to watch Collins perform his music on stage will know what I mean when I say that this gentle, thoughtful man played the struggle, he played politics, and he also played his work in government in the way that he played his music. With great talent, commitment, and certainty, but also with unassailable optimism, with emotion, and with a beguiling mixture of shyness and humor. He was possessed of the kind of genuine confidence that only comes with genuine humility. This man, molded by his family, shaped by the African National Congress from a tender age of 17 years, knew who he was, but he also understood who everyone else was. And he also knew where he fitted in. He understood our history and the content of our struggle. He also knew the character of his organization, the African National Congress. He was not shy to lead, but he always understood himself as part of a bigger group, a collective. The village, his family, the cadre, a member and leader of the ANC, the musical band, and the people of South Africa. There was no malice, there was no guile, and there was no bitterness about Collins Chabane. That was the measure of the man that he was. His comrades trusted him. They had confidence in his abilities. They admired his work as well as his work ethic. He was devoted to the ideals of our movement and the task of achieving a better life for all our people. At home, in exile, and on Robben Island, he was known to be disciplined and incisive in his contribution to strategic debates. All week, people have been calling radio stations with stories of a man who spoke to everyone and listened to everyone, who stood in the queue with the regular folks for a toilet rather than going to the VIP toilet, who insisted on being treated as a regular parishioner at his church rather than as a minister or a dignitary. It is difficult to remain a man of the people when you are wearing the robes of power. But Collins Chabane showed us how to do it. He was a down-to-earth person. He always treated everyone with the same dignity and respect. Whether they were a manual laborer or a gardener at the union buildings or a fellow minister. Although he progressed to the highest levels of the ruling party and of government, he always retained his humility. As a result, he was a good listener and was always open to hearing other people's points of view. His interest in the views of others was a result of his natural curiosity and love for debate, combined with his desire to continuously gain a better understanding of everything. He did not think for a minute that he knew it all. He was very much aware that he might be wrong about some things, and he was willing to change his views on the basis of being presented with new evidence. This interest in scientific analysis was probably one of the factors that led him to study electrical engineering while he was a prisoner on Robben Island, which in turn would have reinforced his inclination towards thinking on the basis of scientific evidence. His deep respect for evidence and facts led him to being viewed as a very fair person, including by his political opponents. Collins' technical and scientific side was complemented by a strong humanistic side. He was a deeply compassionate person, full of empathy for other people and their difficulties. For example, when Collins was the MEC responsible for roads in Limpopo, when the province was hit by the devastating floods of February 2000, along with neighboring Mozambique, Collins was one of the first people on the ground as the disaster unfolded, tirelessly organizing assistance. He spent whole nights in the pouring rain together with his department's road maintenance unit, battling to recreate accessibility across raging rivers so that isolated communities could be reached. I personally had occasion to witness this trait of compassion on Collins Chabane's side. A few months ago, when a hospital in Limpopo had problems with its water supply over a weekend, somehow Collins, who always had his ear on the ground, got to hear about it. He called me and told me that there was a problem in a hospital in Limpopo regarding water. This hospital had run out of water. And he was deeply concerned that the patients in the hospital would not have water for a weekend before the plumbers and everybody else could come and fix the water supply. Without even me asking him, he said he would travel to the hospital 500 kilometers away. The time, as we discussed this, was 5 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. He went ahead and arranged that water should be supplied to the hospital. He did not have to do it, but he went ahead and did it. These personality traits combined to make Collins very successful as a leader in government. His compassion made him genuinely concerned about improving the lives of all South Africans, and this in turn led him to being passionate about improving the performance of government. Collins pioneered the outcomes monitoring and national evaluation system in government. These systems are now strongly becoming embedded in government departments. Minister Jeff Radebe now carries this work that was started by Collins Chabane forward. In time, and it is already underway, this will contribute significantly to improving the performance of government. In this regard, Collins has left a proud and enduring legacy. He has made a major contribution to achieving the goal that he was so passionate about, improving the performance of government to improve the lives of our people. Collins was one of the leading pioneers of our new dispensation. It was during the drafting of our Constitution that I was exposed to his sharp and analytical mind. The richness of his analysis of problems and issues has left a lasting impression on many who worked with him. Collins passed away during an important time in the history of our developmental state. As Minister of Public Service and Administration, he was hard at work together with Deputy Minister Ayanda Dlodlo to develop a new cadre of public servants that grasp their role as change agents. In his life and in his work, Collins was the embodiment of our government's motto, Batupili. He argued that we must not spare any effort in our continued quest to professionalize our public service. Like him, we must put the development of our people at the center of our work to realize a capable, responsive, effective, and efficient developmental state. One of the less known aspects of Collins' work was that of promoting peace and security and stability on the African continent. He did extensive work in many countries in Africa, and I had the privilege of working with him in South Sudan when President Zuma asked me to be his special envoy to South Sudan. Many South Sudanese fondly regard him as one of their own. When they looked at him at times, they mistook him for one of their own citizens. For Comrade Collins was a little shade darker than I am, but he was much shorter than many of the toweringly tall South Sudanese. But they embraced him. And he took time when he traveled to South Sudan to visit many people to South Sudan in their homes and their villages. One of the things that he exposed me to was the true mark of his simplicity. He would always want us to stay in the simplest and the cheapest hotel each time we went to Juba. And Juba can get very hot in summer. And Collins always chose a hotel that did not have air conditioning. And his simplicity extended beyond just the choice of hotel. I got at close range to see what he eats. Breakfast or dinner for starters would be ugali, which is porridge and meat. That's all Collins would eat. Breakfast would be porridge and meat. Lunch would be porridge and meat. And I say, Comrade Collins, aren't you taking this a bit too far, this simplicity? And he says, Comrade DP, this is what I love. I grew up in Limpopo and I was brought up on this. And I said to him, the more I eat porridge, the more I bulge. And the more you eat porridge, the more you get smaller. So there must be some magic there. Growing up in the rural village of Chikondu, he appreciated and embraced the ways and religious practices, traditions and cultures of the people where he was born. For his extraordinary life, we thank his parents and the community who brought him up to respect all humanity and to cherish the collective wisdom of our people. True to his character, he visited his old primary school shortly before his passing and made a commitment to the principal that he would contribute to the renovation of the school. Because he gave our movement and our country so much, we must together honor his commitment and contribute to rebuild his school for the community. Collins Chabane lived a political life from the age of 17. He leaves a political legacy. He would have expected that his memorial would be a political occasion where we speak not only about the remarkable achievements of our nation in the making, but also about the many challenges our people still face. It would have been his wish that we draw from his tragic passing the lesson that safety on our roads must become a national obsession. It would have been his wish that our shock and our sorrow be transformed into a solemn determination, not merely to reduce the number of deaths on our roads, but to end them. We can stop the carnage on our roads. All we need is our will. We must spread the message in our homes, in our schools, and our communities and workplaces. Let us make this tragic event the turning point in the struggle we must necessarily wage to have safer roads. As the poet wrote, Comrade Collins, we wish we could tell you we are not ready to let you go, but you have already departed. Your departure has filled our hearts with sorrow. We miss that little twinkle that used to light up your eyes. We miss the sound of your voice already. A cabinet meeting that was chaired by President Zuma was a sad occasion yesterday as we missed Collins Chabane's voice. We miss your laughter and your humor, but most of all, we miss the way you made us feel, like nothing could ever harm you, because your love for life, for music, your family, and your organization was so strong and so real. There are others here who miss you, Comrade Collins. They have gathered here today. Your life touched so many people, not only in our country, but across the African continent. Your friends are here. Your comrades are here. They want you to know that you will always be remembered. And they are filled with sadness and grief. No one really wants to say goodbye. So we will just wish you eternal peace. Mintiro ya wena ya balabula. Ibonile mintiro ya wena. Cancer, Comrade Collins. Utlela kahle mutukulu waka Maluleke, mutukulu waka Chabane, mutukulu waka Minga. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Comrade Chabane khawulale ngoxolo. Comrade Chabane khawulale ngoxolo. Sekudala uzabala. Sekudala uzabala. Uzabala. Comrade Chabane khawulale ngoxolo. Sekudala uzabala. Sekudala uzabala. Uzabala. Comrade Chabane khawulale ngoxolo. Thank you, comrades. After the closing remarks from us, as the program directors were going to request Umfundisi Ubekasivulele to come and close with the benediction. But let me take this opportunity to thank the family.
Well, that's how we come to the end of this special broadcast. But do remember that we will be carrying the broadcast of the funeral service on Saturday live here on Channel 404. From me, Vuyo Mvoko.
And of course, it was a very dignified ceremony that we observed here at the Tshwane Event Center. And as my colleague Vuyo has just mentioned, it is not the end. It will continue on Saturday, where the late Minister Collins Chabane will be afforded a state funeral in his home village in Chikundu, Malamulele, Limpopo. And that's a goodbye from us here in Pretoria.
Sikeleli Africa malupaganyiso pondolwayo izwaimita.
Type 1 diabetes happens when your pancreas stops working, so the body does not get insulin anymore.
I have diabetes. My life is changed. I was in a total state.
Too much food, too little exercise. That's what it's about.
Hot flushes. So you would start with lifestyle modification, wearing cotton clothing, eating right, etc. And then hormone treatment.